Hello, hello. Welcome to Sit and See. I'm Dr. Jared Jones. Research specialties, ancient systems of meditation, the cognitive science of meditation, Buddhist philosophy, and the philosophy of science. If you are tuning into this class for the first time, where the heck have you been? We've been at this for 3 months now, 4 months now. You're just now tuning in. Okay, so joking aside, I've been a Buddhist for about 21 years and been training also in Longmen Taoism, Dragon Gate Taoism for another 6 on top of that. And this course that I've been teaching, called the Five Foundations of Meditation, is based upon my experience as a practitioner who's done some serious retreats and trained in a traditional environment in a couple of different major traditions, Gelug Tibetan Buddhism and Longmen Taoism being the main ones. And I've taken the very best of these traditions and the very best of what I've seen in modern cognitive scientific research into meditation and put them into a packet of 5 things that I think can help lay people train in meditation in the real world. So today, we're going to be working on Foundation 2, which is standing practice and doing body scanning in a standing position. So some of you will be wondering, why are we doing body scanning in a standing position instead of sitting down? Well, probably you should do it sitting down first. However, once you have some competence, some ability to do body scanning in a seated position, since we live in the real world, and since very often you're going to be doing, or should be doing, trying to do your practices standing up, walking around, doing things at work, for example, very beneficial, very important to learn how to do your practices in a standing position. That's reason number one. Reason number two is this: if you don't learn how to do your practices in a standing, or rather, sorry, reason number two is this: if you learn how to get the mind in a very concentrated state, the first thing that's going to happen to you is that the mind is going to get sleepy. The mind's going to get tired. The mind's going to try to fall asleep on you. So, how do you overcome the mind's tendency to try to fall asleep on you once you have a little bit of concentration? Well, hard to fall asleep if you're in a standing position. Also, body scanning, if you move down the body, tends to make the mind extremely calm extremely quickly, even more quickly than moving up the body, in my experience. I teach body scanning moving in an upward direction because it gives you the best of both worlds: the extremely powerful calming effect of body scanning meditation and the effect, stopping at the top of the head rather than stopping at the feet, of making the mind more bright, more fresh, more lucid. So I'm trying to prepare you for the fact that as you get a mind that's more stable, more calm, the next problem that comes up, according to Buddhist classics for training and meditation, is that the mind is going to try to sink and become dull, and eventually that dullness will make you fall asleep. Quite a few of my students who've trained in Zen or Chan practice, who do a lot of just sitting, have reached out and described this problem. I've also heard, even from on one occasion, a monk living in Japan who had tremendous amount of experience and has done a lot of practice, mentioned that when he goes to do his just sitting practice, oftentimes he falls asleep. So this is actually a classical problem. It's described in the great Indian Buddhist classics on the process of training and meditation, and it's called laxity or lethargy. After the mind gets a little bit calm, a little bit quiet, a little bit stable, it starts to sink, starts to want to fall asleep. So, therefore, when I train you in body scanning, I try to get you into a standing position as quickly as possible to overcome lethargy or laxity while gaining concentration. So, that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to jump straight into doing body scanning in a standing position. And give me one moment. Let's see. Okay. Right. So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so we'll jump straight into doing the practice. So, the way this practice works, I'll back up a little bit so you can see all of me here. The way this practice works is you want to try to get your body oriented in a way that's going to support the process of training and concentration in a standing position. So, one interesting way of thinking about how to set the posture for standing is if you were right on the brink of becoming unconscious and falling over, right? And the body was just about to fall over and collapse, where every bit of tension had left the body and the body was about to fall over and hit the ground. That transition point between you standing here holding the body upright with strength and absolutely everything that was holding you up going away, right? That transition point is basically where you want the body to be, where the body's still being held up by the absolute minimum of force and effort, but everything else that doesn't need to be held in some position has been completely let go, as if the body's become unconscious, right? Or as if you have become unconscious. So, what does that posture look like? There's a bunch of different ways you can train the body to have that kind of quality where it's still has structure, but it's completely released in terms of bodily tension. And there's a ton of training you can do on this if you're doing 18 Lohan Palm. There's a ton of training you can do on this if you're doing things like Qigong or Neigong or Neidan or Chinese internal health arts. You see it a bit in the yoga traditions as well, but from what I've seen, they're not as explicit about it. In brief, let me teach you about posture in this way. So we'll build this from the ground up. So starting with the feet, you just want to bend your knees enough so that you feel pressure going into just behind the ball of the foot, or at least the front of the heel. But you don't want to be completely back here on your heels, right? You also don't want to be here on your toes. If you go to your toes, you'll feel that you have to tense a lot of muscles to hold yourself in that position. If you go to your heels, it feels comfortable at first, but resting all the weight of the body on the bones that way actually isn't the most advantageous way to stand. So, the best way, bend the knees a little bit, and then you'll feel that the feet stretch slightly, but not completely flattening to the ground. Next, in terms of the hips, imagine that there was a really big weight on a chain between your sexual organ and your anus, right? So from there, pulling straight down from the middle of the hips, right? So if my hips were like this, out of alignment, and there was a big weight in the center of my hips pulling downwards, my whole body would end up upright like this. It wouldn't end up like this. And I certainly couldn't hold it like this either, right? So the body ends up upright and the back is not arched. If you put your hands on the lower back and just release all the extra tension from the lower back, you'll feel that the hips end up dropping like this underneath you. And also, if you bend your knees while you do that, you'll feel that the pressure in your feet becomes more, which is a sign that that weight is hitting the ground. So again, this is your body just on the brink of almost falling over, that sort of slightly stretchy feeling right before it would fall over, but not actually falling over. Next, the chest. So the chest, you want to let it relax down slightly. You don't want to be holding the chest up like this. Let the chest relax down slightly. Then the elbows. You want the elbows not pulled tight across the body, across the sides of the body like this, and you don't want them held out awkwardly like this. You have two options. I'm going to give you the one that I use most often. I like this one a lot. Just touch in particular, your middle finger, touch it to your thigh at about 45 degrees, not military style on the side, not whatever this is on the front, but about 45 degrees. Touch your middle finger to your thigh, and then just Slightly open your hands, ever so slightly. So there's a little bit of stretchiness, just like in the feet. And you should feel, especially if you relax the back of your shoulders, that now there's a bit of stretchiness that runs from the feet to the hands. The whole body should feel a little bit bouncy. And it's that bouncy, stretchy quality of relying on mostly the stretchiness of the elastic tissue in the body. That's what you're going to use to stand. Finally, you have the head. So the head, if you feel the back of your head, there's a big bony part that sticks out there. That's the area um, where the vertebra of the neck connect into the skull. So when you hear from meditation texts where they say drop your head, they don't mean go like this, which is a lot of what a lot of people do when they go, "Oh, I'm going to put my chin down," and they go like this. If you do that, your neck will degenerate over time, and by the time you hit 30 years old, you'll have huge neck problems and it'll be harder to do your practice. So what you want to do is actually much more gentle than this. So instead of going like that, just take your chin from that joint where the skull meets the chin, and you just go like this from that joint. You leave the rest of the neck wherever it happens to be. So from there, one of my teachers says it's almost like if somebody put a meat hook into that point, and then you let the rest of the body hang off of that point, right? Sometimes I also say if somebody grabbed the hair on the back third of your skull and was going to lift you off the ground from that point, everything else hanging off of the back third of the skull from the top here, the back third of the top of the skull. And so the back third of the top of your skull ends up being right over the perineum area between the anus and sexual organs if you bend your knees. And this position is very, very similar to the position you'll have when meditating. So let me just briefly justify that. If I'm here with the arms at 45 degrees, right, with the elbows not here, but slightly elevated off the body, knees bent, right? Watch this. When I bring my hands here, see how the elbow stays in the same position? Where do my hands end up? They end up in the meditative posture, right? Whether you're doing one of the Taoisty ones or one of the Buddhist ones or one of the whatever, there's whatever, however many different kinds of postures, elbows in the same position. Why? Because the weight of the arm ends up being a counterweight to the weight of the body. And because it's stretched out this way slightly, the body ends up pulling this direction, the arms end up pulling this direction, and the counterweight, the stretchiness of these is pulling against each other like this, and it holds you upright in the proper position. You see this? So this allows you to release every unnecessary bit of muscular tension from the body for your standing practice. In the beginning, your legs will feel a bit uncomfortable because you have to build up some strength. But as you build strength in this standing posture, your seated posture will become easier too, because this is the same spinal position and arm position you need for your seated practice. Okay, so now that we're standing properly, weight between the back of the ball of the foot and the front of the heel, as if there's a big weight connected to your perineum pulling downwards. The hips, perineum is pointed down towards the floor between the feet. Chest is slightly dropped, not super exaggerated. Elbows are slightly raised. Fingers, in particular, middle finger touching the 45 degrees on the thigh. And the head from the top joint, chin dropping down. So from here, let's start from the feet and we'll do a body scan. So place your mind into the feet. And when I say place the mind into the feet, what I mean is you want to feel the sensations that you're actually feeling in the feet. You're not analyzing them. You're not visualizing them. You're not trying to figure them out or mentally label them with words. You're just observing them as if the mind is a video camera. And then place the mind into the ankles, into the calves, knees, lower thighs, upper thighs, into the hip joints, front of the pelvis, back of the pelvis, tailbone, anus, perineum, and scan through your sexual organ. And then come to the waist, so about 3 inches above the hips in the back. And then draw a line all the way around the body like a belt. So the waist belt, next the diaphragm belt. So again, a ring of tissue going around the body, top of the waist to the bottom of the solar plexus. And then into the chest belt. So from the nape of the neck to the solar plexus, just the whole cavity of the chest. Try to ignore your shoulder blades and collarbones if you can. Just the chest. The tops of your shoulders, front of your shoulders, including the collarbones, side of your shoulders, and the back of your shoulders, including the scapula or shoulder blades. And then the armpits, the entire bicep region, elbows, forearms, wrists, palms, the first knuckle on each of your fingers and thumb, second knuckle, third knuckle, fingertips, then into the lower third of your neck, the middle third of your neck, and the upper third of your neck. Into the joint between the neck and the skull, back of the skull, left side, right side, left ear, right ear, and forehead. Left eyebrow, right eyebrow, left eye, right eye, nose, left cheek, right cheek, not your lips yet, but the upper lip area, the lower lip area, and your chin. Now your top lip, bottom lip, and the skin inside your mouth, your teeth and gums, roof of your mouth, underneath your tongue, and your tongue. From the tip of your tongue, move your awareness backwards until you find your throat. And from the throat, move straight upward through the top of your skull, and then come to rest at the top of the skull. Your awareness to the back third of the skull, on the top of the skull, the back third in the middle. And then take a rest. Now your legs might feel a little funny. Instead of shaking them out, just do a couple quick rotations around the room. Or if you don't have space to walk in a circle, you can just walk back and forth and just let the legs slowly return to normal. Okay, questions? So, for those of you who have done some of my practices before, this is Foundation 2, learning how to do a body scan in a standing position. Part of Foundation 2, if you were going to carry on with this aspect of the practice, would be then to move from meditating just on the top of the head to meditating on 5 points. Meditating on the top of the head, the hands, and the feet. And you do that in a standing position. And then once you can do that, then you would do it walking. So you would transition into walking meditation using 5 points as the first technique for walking. You can try to do body scanning also while walking, but it's quite difficult, and the benefits are not super not super great. The technique that I think is best is to do 5 points. If that's too difficult while walking, you can also just place your awareness into the feet and do walking meditation with the primary object of awareness as the feet or as the legs. But there's more benefits to becoming aware of 5 points. So the 5 points are the most extreme distances from each other within the body: top of the head, hands, and the feet. So, what you're training with 5 points is to be able to spread your awareness out inside the entire body by first learning how to get it to the most extreme points inside the body. And then the last aspect of training in Foundations 2 and 3 is actually the first part of Mahamudra style practice in the way that I teach it, which is to spread your awareness out in 6 directions inside the body, which culminates in just meditating on the entire body as an object of concentration. So if you can do this, then for the first time, you're actually starting to meditate on one of your consciousnesses, body consciousness. So that then becomes a bridge to meditate on other types of consciousness that you have, including the remaining four external senses, and then ultimately the central mind, meditating on mental consciousness, which then comes under Foundation 4, Mahamudra style practice, parts 1 and 2. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any questions come in. Oh, we have prayer hands from someone. So, not seeing any new questions come in. So, I suppose we will leave it there. Thank you all so much for attending. Another little short class. Maybe everyone's burned out after 8 hours of live streaming yesterday. Okay. Well, thank you all for attending, and have a lovely evening. Hope to see you again very soon. Try not to disappear before I